MyGovWatch Live, the B2G Roundtable. If you're east of the Rocky Mountains here in the US, good afternoon. Good morning to those out west, and hello to anyone joining us from the far corners of the earth or watching online in the future. Today is Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023. This series is brought to you by MyGovWatch.com. MyGovWatch is revolutionizing traditional bid notification and matching by providing RFP leads in more than 200 industries using proprietary artificial intelligence at double the rate of free government sites and at a fraction of the cost of legacy websites. Big government contracts don't start with a solicitation, but all roads lead to one, and your budget for hearing about RFPs does not have to be thousands of dollars per year. Start your 14-day free trial today. And today, our co-host with the co-most is Jennifer Schaus. Jennifer, I've been waiting to say this all day, folks. Jennifer Schaus is in the house.
Happy to be here, Nick. Thank you.
Welcome, welcome. So, folks, if you're not on Jennifer's email list or haven't seen her online, Jennifer's company, J. Schaus and Associates, helps businesses succeed in U.S. federal contracting. She's worked directly for federal contractors in the past as a direct sales rep. She launched her firm 20 years ago and now provides consulting services to established contractors. So, Jennifer, how is your week going?
It is going well. I'm glad it's Wednesday. We hold a webinar series every Wednesday, so we just finished that. And then Monday night, so just 2 days ago, we had a big networking event. It's our quarterly event, and we had almost 300 federal government contractors on site, shaking hands and swapping business cards.
And this is an in-person event, I take it?
It is, yes. So the perimeter of the room is flanked with federal government agencies. I think we had about 9 there, and then some corporate sponsors, and 2 hours of networking at the Kennedy Center. So overlooking the Potomac River, and we had a beautiful sunny day. So it was a great event.
Well, it's nice to hear that people are continuing to have more in-person events. I know, for a couple of years there wasn't much of that happening. So kudos to you for doing that. When did you restart those events, by the way?
Let me think. This is our maybe 3rd one since we've been back. So 2021, maybe it was summertime, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And people were anxious, I think, to get back and be in person. And we've got, hand sanitizer and masks are optional, and some people still wear them. So whatever works for the attendees is fine with us.
Well, this time of year, I have 3 children, and this time of year, sometimes I'm tempted to wear a mask in my own home.
I can imagine, yes.
So we're going to start with a particular procurement that someone brought up. This person is not yet with us, but we're going to cover it anyway because I think it's very interesting. And this has to do with requirements in an RFP. Having to do with sam.gov and having an account on sam.gov. So let me see if I can do a share. Okay. And actually, I see the person has just joined us.
Okay.
Danielle, I know you're with us, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to promote you to a panelist. By the way, folks, while we're waiting for Danielle to join us, feel free to raise your hand if you're a little shy. You can do a chat question. If you are joining us, if we do address your question, we're going to ask you to provide audio. Video's better, but it's up to you ultimately if you want to share videos. So let's see if Danielle can join us. Danielle, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. Good afternoon. How are you?
Welcome to MyGovWatch Live. And for the folks who do not know you yet, where are you joining us from and what do you do?
I am joining from New York City, more specifically Midtown Manhattan, and I am an account executive with a small business, minority-owned courier and messenger service company.
Well, I know that they use a lot of those in the New York City area.
Yeah,
so
it's very competitive. Yeah.
Good business to be in a city like New York. And so for the folks who are on with us, Danielle was kind enough to send us a question about a particular RFP, and I'm going to share my screen. Let's share my browser. And I'm going to a particular sam.gov RFP. And if you could, Danielle, can you see the RFP that we're looking at?
Yes, I can see.
Okay, folks, so this is New York Harbor Courier Services, so entirely relevant to what Danielle's company does. And Danielle was kind enough to point out to us that in the RFP, in order to be eligible for an award, they want you to have an account on sam.gov, and they want you to have an account on vetbiz.va.gov at the time of quote submission. So Danielle, I suspect that you probably Googled that once you saw that, did you not?
I did, yes. And it was when I brought it up, it said, okay, this is an official government website. So when I saw that, there was kind of some level of trust there. So I completed the application because, as well, many of you might not know, but I read through all the documents and this was a perfect fit for our company. So of course I wanted to be eligible and I wanted to partake in the bid. So I Googled the website, it said official government website. And then at the end, it was asking for an enormous fee, which is very surprising.
Yes. Yes. And so this is a really easy one, and I'm happy to start with a softball question. It is perfectly legitimate for, certainly in a federal RFP, for them to ask you to have a sam.gov account, because the SAM is the System for Award Management, and you cannot have a federal contract, subcontract, or grant or government loan, federal government loan, without having a SAM account. But I actually Googled get a SAM account, and I'm sure you did that too. And if you notice, you have sponsored ads. So this is a little bit of a tricky thing because you have the actual SAM website, which is the first unsponsored link, right? But here's what I would say to everyone out there. And Jennifer, I'm curious to hear what you have to say on this too. Even though you're not required to use a third party to create a SAM account, they make it so dang hard to do that there's an entire cottage industry of companies that will help you get your SAM account through. So I would not look at it as a scam, but there are certainly companies that are trying to make it very expensive and may not treat you well. There's certainly other reputable companies that do it, but it can be a difficult thing. Jennifer, have you seen a lot of people complaining about sam.gov in the last few months?
Yes. My basic rule of thumb is check the website. If it ends in .gov or .mil, M-I-L for military, it's then going to be a government website and legitimate. Anything that's .com, somebody's selling you something, .org, or any of the other extensions are going to be non-government sites.
And so think of it this way also, Danielle, we operate MyGovWatch.com. Jennifer has her business, and our businesses have something in common. We're providing something that's commercial in nature because the government makes it difficult to, on one hand, find out about different leads, which is why we provide our website. And they make it difficult to figure out how to contract with the GSA, which is part of what Jennifer's company does. So I would not say that they're all scams, but just decide for yourself whether you want to pay for outside help getting that account set up.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Any follow-up questions?
Not right now. No, thank you. That was very good. Very well explained. Thank you to both of you.
Please, if you think of something else, we'll be here for an hour and a half. So if you have another question, just raise your hand and let me turn off the share.
I was just going to also say, Danielle, and to the others, if that's at the stage where you are is registering on SAM, take the first stab at doing it yourself, because the information they're going to ask, only you will know. If you hire a company to do that, they're just basically going to ask you those same questions. What is your company address? Does your company accept credit cards? Have you been debarred or suspended in the last 3 years? A lot of this basic information. What is your primary industry? So complete as much as you can by yourself. And then if you need outside help, there are companies that can help you. But there's also resources. Every state has at least one of these. They're called PTACs, PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Center. And they are partially funded through the SBA and Department of Defense. Again, every state has at least one. They're usually co-located with a university, and they offer this type of assistance. So they won't charge you thousands of dollars to copy your tax ID number into the sam.gov system or your address. They can help you on a more cost-effective basis.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So thanks for joining us, Danielle, and please stay with us. So Jennifer, obviously this has to do with red tape, right? Having a SAM account, you need to have, this is an example of red tape in government contracting. Federal contracting can be so complex with its different rules and regulations, compliance issues. Why would someone want to enter into this market knowing they have to deal with this kind of red tape?
Yeah, I think the federal market, or we can even say government market as a whole, including state, local, and education, so the SLED market as well. But the government market offers three main things, in my opinion, that are attractive to businesses. Number one, they're stable. They're not going to be going out of business anytime soon. So in terms of crisis or pandemics, or we look at 9/11, the government spent excessive amounts of money, more so than they did in other fiscal years. So war, hurricanes, you look at Katrina, the government came and responded, and they purchased equipment and services that were needed to help resolve these conflicts. Same thing during the pandemic. You look at the spending, healthcare, medical devices, cleaning, remediation, all of that, tons of spending. So first is stability. Number two, longevity. You look at the contracts. Most contracts are multi-year contracts. So it's not like you get one contract and then you have to turn around and recompete for it. So you've got that longevity of the contracts, 5-year, 10-year contracts. And then number three, the most important is, you're going to get paid. So sometimes in the commercial world, you may be doing business with somebody, and then suddenly, because of the economy, they're out of business. The government kind of weathers all of these storms. And when there is a storm, again, they are usually spending more than the commercial sector. So, you're going to get paid. You just need to make sure that your invoice is has the correct dots and crossing your T's and has the right font and the right color and everything else. So as long as you have a compliant invoice, then you should get paid, and obviously, and assuming you've done the work.
Three great points. I could not agree with more. And we have someone who would like to ask a question, I think, about set-asides, and this is Brandy Hinton. Brandy, I see that you've raised your hands, so I'm going to promote you to panelist, and let's see if you can join us, at least by audio, but if you feel like turning on your camera, that's great as well.
Can you see me?
Yes.
All right.
Welcome, Brandy. Welcome to MyGovWatch Live. And what do you do, and where are you joining us from?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and I own a cybersecurity consulting company. Service disabled, veteran-owned, woman-owned, small business certification. So.
And that's you.
Yes, that's me.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I had a question about set-asides. So I see all this woman-owned small business and service disabled veteran-owned small business supposed to be set-asides, and also contracts just, for that group. Where do I find those at? I have no idea. I've tried looking, especially for the set-asides, because I'm like, oh, yay, less competition. And then on top of that, everybody wants you to have experience. You can't get experience without getting experience, if that makes sense.
There are about 10 questions in what you just said. Jennifer, do you want to take any part of that?
Sure. Brandy, thank you for joining us, and thank you for your service as well. What branch of the military were you in?
The Army.
Army. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So there's a couple resources or ways to go about doing this. First, you just basically have to do some homework and hop over to sam.gov, and there are parameters there that you can check for women-owned, SDVO. And I would go back a couple fiscal years and look at the trends for your particular, where your NAICS code or your PSC code and keywords intersect with these set-asides, to find out what departments and more specifically agencies, and more specifically what contracts are available, what's coming up for recompete. Because you are a veteran, I would take a closer look at the VA, simply because they have the mantra of not only veteran, but veteran first. So if we take the previous question, was it Danielle? I believe her name was.
Yes.
She was going after courier services. I'm not sure if their business is a veteran-owned business, but if anyone is competing for any work at the VA, if you're up against a veteran-owned company and you're not veteran-owned, don't even waste your time, because the VA will primarily award contracts to veteran-owned businesses. So you have that in your favor. But then you have to think that everybody else is also knows this as well. So you probably also want to look at perhaps another agency or department where not as many veterans are going. But yeah, you really need to do that market research up front to carve out a path of least resistance, and even take a couple steps back looking at RFIs, requests for information, sources sought. When you respond to the sources sought in RFIs, there's the rule of two. So if there are two small businesses, and again, because you've got these fantastic check boxes of women-owned and SDVO, SB, they can then set aside these contracts just for women-owned SDVO, SB. So then the competition pool is smaller, and that's really your goal with in all of this, is to create a smaller competition pool. I will point out one more resource, then I'll stop talking. There's a gentleman by the name of Tom Johnson. He puts out a publication called Set Aside Alert. And I think the website is just setasidealert.com. So it's .com. He's going to be selling you something. And he publishes a daily newsletter of all of the set aside opportunities.
Perfect. Thank you.
So can I ask you, Brandy, and by the way, I agree with everything Jennifer just said. Can I ask you, have you looked at subcontracting?
I have, but that's also I've gotten a couple of subcontracts, but that's from just reaching out to actual companies and saying, hey, do you have any work? Because it's kind of in the same realm, even though it's under my business, it's in the same realm of interviewing for it, not, bidding, should I say, or saying, hey, do you have any slots for this? I've sent out numerous emails. I did a lot of the homework. I've sent out emails to the primes. I've looked on the website for when they are looking for subcontractors, and nobody reaches back. That's just, or their email address is not right, it gets kicked back or it's blocked. So it's like, but I know I'll have a positive on one day.
You will. Are you familiar with the term OSTABU? Okay, I'm going to try to do this from memory. Maybe Jennifer can help me. The Office of Small and Minority Business Utilization, I think. So each federal agency has a unit within it, and that unit is charged with making sure that people like you are included in their contracting initiatives. So you may be shocked to hear this, but large contractors do not like giving their revenue away. Are you surprised?
No, I'm not surprised at all.
So I would make friends with the OSTABU at different federal agencies where you see there is a need for this among the prime contractors, because they have the ability to help make sure that the prime contractors are aware that there are people who are looking for this kind of work as a subcontractor. Are you familiar with the idea that your personal experience can be used as past performance?
No, I did not.
So, and I take it, is it a newer business? You mentioned that, there's a little bit of
since 2018, but I've worked on multiple like automation contracts and things all under my business. Can that count?
Yeah, don't let anyone tell you that your company doesn't have past performance if you personally are the owner and you have past performance.
Oh, okay. I was told the opposite by somebody at the Small Business Administration. That's funny.
And certainly different types of past performance is valued more, but let's say there's a startup company and the person has 30 years of experience in security consulting. You can't really say the company doesn't have past performance. You know what I mean?
I understand.
So are you familiar with usaspending.gov?
Yes, I go there all the time, and that's where I get a lot of my names, emails to contact.
Okay. Are you using NAICS codes to look stuff up?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I get spreadsheets. I build spreadsheets. I do a lot.
So here's one thing I would caution you about. We're going to be publishing an article about this. We understand and we study this using sam.gov data through MyGovWatch.com, that a large percentage of federal contracts, you might be surprised to hear, are applying the wrong NAICS code to the activity. So I would encourage you to try to understand not only where is your NAICS code being used in USA Spending and in sam.gov, but if they were to make a mistake and assign it the wrong NAICS code, what would they assign it, right? What would be their second choice if they made a mistake? And look under those two. So our site uses artificial intelligence to try to make sense of what's in the content so that people hear about the right leads, because you can't simply use a NAICS code or a PSC in sam.gov and hear about the right opportunities because they're putting the wrong ones in so frequently. Jennifer, anything to add?
Yeah, I'll just clarify or make a general suggestion. When you are talking to the OSDBU's, Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization, and then the Defense Department has their equivalent, which is OSBP, Office of Small Business Programs. And then if you're looking at large businesses that have this subcontracting requirement, your kind of point of contact there are the SBLOs, Small Business Liaison Officer. I would say use LinkedIn for all of these. There's a ton of these folks on LinkedIn. But when you contact them, don't just say, hey, what can you do for me? I'm providing, landscaping, cybersecurity, whatever it is, services. Have an opportunity. Hey, I see you guys have a contract that's coming up for recompete in, September of 2023, which would be about a good time to have that conversation. If it's coming up for recompete next month or in the next 3 to 4 months, you've missed the boat. You're way behind. It's a very long sales cycle, but once you get into the cycle, then there's some good business. So continue to do your homework. It sounds like you've got the right resources and tools. But when you contact the OSDBUs, the OSBPs, and the SBLOs, have a specific solicitation. That's to me, the biggest issue with small businesses is that they haven't done that homework. And then register on the company's website. That's the first thing they're going to ask you. Have you gone to our small business diversity section of our website? Register there. Make sure that your registration is complete. Make sure your registration in SAM is complete. Sometimes it's just these little things that really give you that extra edge.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yep.
And Brandy, there are many, many more things we could cover. Stay with us. Maybe if you're still with us, we can come back to you once we run out of questions. But if not, then please join us next month, because there are many other things I think that we could talk about here. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And so, Jennifer, what would you say are we're talking about different things that people should do. What are some of the top action items that a novice or an aspiring contractor should take to get into the game to be competitive?
Sure. First and foremost, I think they need to be realistic. That's the biggest, we'll say, misnomer about government contracting is, oh, it's easy money. And, there's all these YouTube videos, how I made $1 million in government contracting. And it takes time to get there. It's, of course, there are some one-hit wonders out there, but for the most part, companies have done the hard work. They've made decisions to skip the happy hour, skip their child's baseball game, and stay in and write the proposal. And they're up until 2 in the morning, and they've done the research on pricing. They understand the requirements. They know what the FAR is, and so some basics. I see a lot of SAM registrations that are incomplete. Or companies sometimes will, or I guess some things that you can do is also just get educated about the market. There are so many resources and tools out there. I mentioned to the first I'll say caller, the first questioner to use your PTAC. Again, the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. There's one in every state. We have them actually listed on our website under the tab that's called Doing Business With. And you just find the state where your business is, and we've got a link to your PTAC there. They offer classes, training, they can help you with your SAM. And then join associations that are related to your business. So I'll say there's kind of two sorts of associations. One that are going to be government contracting related. So there's an association for 8A businesses, for HUBZone, women-owned, veteran-owned. There's great networking. Don't underestimate the power of relationships. Get involved, get on the membership committee, get on the planning committee, whatever it is, meet people. And then the other type of association will be related to your industry. So if you're selling IT services or you're in architecture and engineering, maybe consider Society of American Military Engineers Association. They have events, and all the associations have events. So it's really just getting out there and networking, I think, is one way to kind of short circuit, if you will, even though there's nothing that's happens fast in government. But that's one way to help make yourself more strategic and help accelerate, if we can use that word, any success at government contracting.
Jennifer, that's really fascinating, everything you've just shared, and I couldn't agree with it more. I know that you happen to be someone who understands networking, and you're very good at it. I sometimes have an inclination that because there's so much red tape and things that you need to do that are administrative, that are not really pressing the flesh, do you agree with me that some people forget that you can still press the flesh, whether it be over the phone or by going to these events?
Oh yeah, I mean there certainly is red tape, but the relationships on the commercial side as well as the government side, I think are instrumental. So what's going to set you apart from another contractor, or you being written into the statement of work for the solicitation, which most companies are, I'd say more than 60% of solicitations that have, I'd probably make it 80% of solicitations actually have a relationship behind it. So when you see that RFP, the genesis of that was probably a source that saw it. It was probably an RFI, and then it eventually graduated to an RFP. So if you read the solicitation, you say, wow, this was written just for me. It probably wasn't. Sorry to rain on anyone's parade today, but it really does come down to relationships.
Yeah, and that's very helpful. And Kay Stevenson, we're coming to you next. And if you just be ready for us momentarily, I'd just like to do a short spot from one of our sponsors. So if you're a current or aspiring government contractor, you know the challenges of proposal development and the costs that come with it. But what if there was a way to dramatically reduce your costs by saving time? Fed Support offers tailored custom proposal outlines in Microsoft Word, guaranteed to be 100% compliant with solicitation instructions and requirements. Are you ready to take your next government contract proposal to the next level? Look no further than Fed Support. Visit fedsupport.com to learn more. That's www.fed-support.com, and do it today. So without further ado, I would just like to invite Kay Stevenson. Kay, I see you're still with us. Okay, we have Kay, and she's joining us. Hello, Kay.
Hey, how are you?
Welcome to MyGovWatch Live. What do you do, and where are you joining us from?
We're a technology company that primarily focuses on law enforcement, criminal justice, and public safety, and we're based out of Tallahassee, Florida.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us. And so I understand you may have had some questions about shortening the time with the bid process and questions about lobbying. So which one would you like to start with, and how would you frame your question?
Well, we have been a government contractor from the very beginning, and some of our accounts are very large federal accounts, as for instance, the Defense Counterintelligence Agency, the U.S. Department of Justice. We have been working on a number of opportunities for well over 2 years. And in that process, we engaged with lobbying firms. And we have not necessarily gotten a lot out of that after spending quite a bit in resources. And I was just wondering, is that a good route to keep following, or are we better off? And what other avenues are there to pursuing business in Washington, D.C.?
Jennifer, why don't you start? I have some thoughts on that, but why don't we start with you, Jennifer?
Sure. Hi, Kay. Thanks for your question, and congratulations on your success at DOJ already. So my thought is this: lobbyists are focused on policy. So I just want to make sure that when you say you're hiring lobbyists, these are people that are kind of running around up on Capitol Hill, dealing with politicians to influence how regulations, laws, procurement law, these sort of things, versus, say, a business development person who's probably knocking on doors and attending networking events at departments and agencies and associations. Is that correct? So you have hired a lobbyist?
In our case, we were trying to get some funding through the NDAA and working with people that had relationships on the Hill that were on particular committees.
Okay.
And we just never could really get very far, and it went for a long period of time.
Okay.
And now, you know, trying to get it on the next NDAA is something that we're trying to strategize about.
Sure. So for those that aren't familiar, the NDAA is the National Defense Authorization Act, and this kind of sets in place the rules and how money is going to flow, kind of in a nutshell, without going into too many details.
Right.
Lobbyists can certainly help with that, but if the end goal is really competing for contracts, then your money, and no discredit to the group or the person that you use, but a more strategic way, in my opinion at least, is to use more of a federal sales and business development person that understands government procurement, understands your target agencies, and has relationships within DOJ and the various agencies within that department where you said software, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can your software work in other departments or agencies, or it's primarily a DOJ kind of function?
No, we work across anything that has to have access to the National Crime Information Center or the various data sources that are available to, like critical infrastructure.
Okay.
Okay. So
Gotcha.
it's a very broad technology use case.
Gotcha. So yeah, I think a sales business development person, again, who understands federal procurement, has relationships in your target agencies, and that's assuming that you've done some homework by using public websites or MyGovWatch to come up with kind of a strategic plan of here's the target agencies, looking back at past procurements, what contracts are coming up for recompete, and try to bump an incumbent out. Do a competitive analysis, so a SWOT analysis to say, are any of my competitors on contract vehicles? Do they have any certifications that I don't? Do they have any set aside boxes checked that we don't? Trying to get money shifted, yeah, it can be long and expensive, and it can take many years, and at the end of the day, it can be unsuccessful. Where I think if you just kind of, more like a grassroots effort where you roll back your sleeves and get out there and network with the agencies and really go after the opportunity, I think is the more direct path to winning contracts.
Thank you very much, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Yes, and Kay, I would echo a lot of what Jennifer just said, but I have a question for you. In employing lobbyists, how specific were the deliverables that you were asking them to provide? So I've hired lobbyists in the past, and we sort of have always tried to be very specific in terms of what we wanted them to do or achieve. So how specific have you been with saying, I want a meeting with this person or someone on this committee? How specific has that been? Very
specific. We even cited the individuals that were on specific committees that we wanted them to talk to. We gave them the names of congressmen We gave them a statement of work of what we were trying to accomplish and the needs that were, as an example, there's a requirement that has been published by the federal government since 2015, and the agencies have not aligned with that requirement. So we set it all out, okay, as to why the government has failed to comply with that act. We gave them so much information. I don't understand it, except I think that there were other priorities that other people felt were more important.
Sure. It's encouraging to know that you at least gave them specific deliverables that you
We did.
So that's a common mistake people make with lobbyists. So, ultimately, lobbyists are doing some of the same things that sales strategists would be doing, right? You're trying to make things happen so that there's awareness of different needs that you're aware of, and so that people can understand how the services you provide relate to those needs. So sorry you didn't have a good experience or haven't had a good experience, but certainly looking at different federal sales strategists out there, Jennifer included, would be I think a useful step.
Well, we have a very active sales presence. The Department of Justice is the key account, but attached to the Department of Justice application that we provide, there's 45 agencies, okay, that we are now approaching. They have the U.S. Marshals. They have a lot of agencies that connect to their data. So we are trying to approach additional business. Sometimes, to tell you the truth, it's easier to upsell in a current account than to land a new account, because landing a new account in our business is 18 to 24 months. The sales cycle is very long. So
this regulatory requirement that's been out there since 2019, you say how many different agencies are subject to it?
Anybody that's in the Defense Department and in critical infrastructure. So it's the Department of Homeland Security. I mean, they have completely neglected to follow the mandate.
Have you considered, just look at this webinar as an example, and Jennifer does a lot, with newsletters and events. Have you considered creating content around this regulatory area and encouraging people that are at these different DoD agencies to absorb that content, whether it be in writing or in this sort of format? Because creating content is a tremendous way of getting people interested in a subject area.
We've created all types of, PowerPoints, scheduled presentations. It just seems like it's not a priority. And sometimes it takes a tragedy, okay, for them to pay attention. And we were trying to, not go down that route. Basically, you need to keep these critical infrastructures safe, and this is the way to do it, and you're not following the mandate.
Well, it sounds like a tough nut to crack, Jennifer. Anything to add?
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like, you guys did the homework for the lobbyists. You gave them the roadmap and they just didn't deliver at the end of the day. But sometimes when you're dealing with politicians, if there's not revenue attached to their congressional district, then they're not going to, it's harder to push those actions through. So I think Nick had a great idea with developing content, and it sounds like you've done that. Are there associations that are focused on this regulation, or a group of companies that complement what you do or do what you do that would also want this initiative?
We work with some of the big federal integrators.
Okay.
And we're a subcontractor to one that has a renewal RFP that he's working on right now. And we're hoping that, as a subcontractor, we're providing a key component which follows this mandate. So, we're trying to ride on all different kinds of vehicles to get into, to get into these locations.
Gotcha.
It's very challenging, but the big integrators have the wherewithal.
Right. What is the actual mandate?
That they must provide security to enter certain standalone facilities like Army bases. Now, this is not for when you come onto a military base, you can just go through a gate and get on. But we're talking about visitors, that are just ad hoc. And
Right.
we provide the application that does an immediate background check. Okay, to say that this person is not on the known terrorist watch list and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I had to kind of sleep on this to come up with a better answer for you. But I will say this, you're in Tallahassee. If you like to read, I'm going to do a little plug for a friend who's got a bookstore there, the Midtown Reader. Go
Oh,
and check
yeah,
it out.
I've been there.
Okay, great.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us, and feel free to jump back on a little bit later on this session or on a future session and be in touch with Jennifer as well.
I will. Thank you.
Okay, and so Jennifer, I'm going to ask you this question, and I'll just tell everyone in the audience before I do that we had a few people not make it to the call. So if you have questions that any of this content is causing you to have, questions that are now coming up based on this content, please raise your hand, because there's going to be a moment pretty soon on this call where we're going to be looking for questions. And so Jennifer, obviously you can make mistakes in hiring the wrong lobbyist or in having the wrong approach. What are some other common big mistakes that aspiring and federal government contractors make?
Sure, I'm going to give you 3, and I'll try to stick to these 3.
Before you do that, I would just like to tell Chand and Elizabeth that you're next. Go ahead.
Okay. Number 1, I think companies have unrealistic expectations. It is, as you heard Kay say, really an 18 to 24 month sales cycle. So if you don't have the economic strength to maintain sales and business development efforts and doing the homework and the marketing and everything else that goes with winning a contract from kind of start to finish, which again, 18 to 24 months is, I think, realistic. Then you might want to take a step back and consider another market, maybe. And then second is that I think companies are reactive and not proactive. They're just looking on SAM and they get a notification that, oh, here's an RFP, and then they respond to it and they don't win. And they've spent time, effort, and money writing this proposal response to the solicitation. So instead, what they should do is put the brakes on, stop, full stop, and not a California stop, make a full stop, do the homework, find out who is buying your product or service or software, how much do they buy, when do they buy it, where do they buy it, what contract vehicles are they using, or is it going out for competition? What does the competitive landscape look like? What does the pricing of the competitors look like? And then create a path, and it should be very narrow. You shouldn't be sending proposals to the VA and then also to the Air Force and then to HHS. You should have very specific solicitations that you're going after. And then third is really just, I think, getting certifications or contract vehicles before you're ready. So many companies call us and say, oh, we got a GSA schedule, or oh, we have the 8A certification, but we don't know how to use it. Well, that's very naive and foolish, I think, because somebody either sold them something that they don't need prematurely, or they just had the idea of build it and they will come, and it doesn't really work like that, particularly not with 8A. So you're really wasting your time if you've gotten the 8A certification and you don't know how to spell government contracting. And I say that kind of tongue in cheek. You really need to have a couple proposals submitted under your belt, perhaps a contract or 2 or 3 as a best practice before you pursue these certifications. Yeah, but I'll stop there.
And I agree. And I've heard it said that, and I agree with this as well, and I wonder if you do, Jennifer, that a lot of people who have some of these certifications, whether it be SDB, OSB, 8A, or what have you, they assume that because they have that, it's like a magic bullet. But you shouldn't really lead with that, right? That can certainly help close a deal that they'll get credit on that basis. But I wonder if you would comment on that.
Yep. And I'll give you a kind of a quasi quote here from the government. I was talking to somebody, this was several years back, and he's like, we have thousands, hundreds of thousands of hub zones. We have hundreds of thousands of 8As to choose from, hundreds of thousands of women-owned, hundreds of thousands of veteran, and the list goes on. He said, but what's missing is companies that actually have value, that are bringing something to the table, that have the past performance. So the cherry on top is the 8A, is the hub zone, is the SDVO. What you really want to focus on is what you do and do well. The rest is just icing on the cake. So make sure that there is something legitimate that you're doing and doing well. That's really the missing piece.
Absolutely. And with that, we're going to be inviting Chan and Elizabeth, who I understand are co-workers at SIA Partners or SIA Partners. And Chan, I'm not sure if you got our request. I see Elizabeth is now joining us as a panelist. Elizabeth, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, and let me just send the same request to Chan. And certainly if you're speaking on behalf of the company, that's fine if we just have you, Elizabeth, but we'll give Chan an opportunity to join us as well. Did you both decide separately or together to join us today, or was it a coincidence?
We decided to join together.
Okay, great. Great. It looks like Chan is joining us. We'll just
Yep.
give him...
Good afternoon.
Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me well?
Yes. So folks, thank you. Thank you for joining us. And certainly we invite both of you to participate. Someone can take the lead for sure, but what do you folks do and where are you joining us from?
So SIA Partners is a next gen management consulting company. I am out of the Charlotte office. Chan, you want to say where you're out of?
Sure. So I'm based in New York City. Our office is located at Wall Street, right in front of New York Stock Exchange. And like Elizabeth said, we are the next generation management consulting company, and we specialize in a variety of fields, not only restricted to the financial services. We work a lot in the government sector, the biopharma sector, digitalization, etc. Name it, we specialize in that.
Okay. And you had questions related to upcoming projects. And in what subject area are you wanting to focus? What kinds of RFPs are you looking for?
So for me, my question was, how do we just identify the bids and RFPs all together? And I think that was addressed maybe in the beginning with the sam.net. Just how do we break into that space as a consulting firm? I think that was, again, mentioned a little bit in the beginning of this conversation. Chan, I don't know if you have anything to add to that. We are also just looking to see if there's any templates that are needed to be filled out when we go to do an RFP. Any recommendations you have for that?
Yeah, I had like a similar question, but just to add on, like, are there also any like projects coming where, ESG is focused?
Yes. Okay. So just a little point of clarification. And Jennifer mentioned earlier that there's a federal website, sam.gov, and that's a clearinghouse for federal solicitations. So are you interested in doing business with state and county and local governments as well, or only the federal government?
All of them.
Okay. So think of it this way. If you were only interested in federal, you could just go out to the SAM website every single day and type in 30 different things and hope that you find something that says ESG. Our website aggregates that data along with data from thousands of other government agencies at the state and local level across the US. So, you just get an email every day that says, here are the things that include the phrase ESG. Are there any opportunities that you're looking at now in the government space around that topic?
I would say yes. From Charlotte area, we are looking at, like Chan mentioned, the ESG space, but also thinking through utilities, energy, so town governments that are doing, let's say, modernization, changing their equipment over, so technology. I'm more on the change management side of things, so that's what I'm looking at. So how do you help town managers and governments as well as state help implement these changes? I know we've also talked through, like Chan mentioned, some energy work, grid modernization, stuff like that.
So are you looking at this Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority thing I have on the screen now for ESG consulting. Is that something that would be of interest?
I would say so, yes. Chan, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yes, but is this like only focused to Vegas or like like it's focused for the entire United States?
Okay, so I just pull this up as an example because I understand for environmental social governance consulting, they could really be talking about, facilities and conserving energy and using less or wasting less in terms of energy. But are you looking at things that are broader than energy use? In other words, true social change?
I would say yes. Looking at this would be something we would be interested in. I know this is an example, right? So for instance, myself and another coworker spoke recently at a conference here and up in Raleigh, and it was with, like I mentioned, town managers, city governments, and they're doing a change over to meters. So their meter systems are going automated. So what's the change around that? We spoke to them about how to do change management. So how would we go about doing a contract with that town government? Do you just go to that town manager? Is that the same as going to this sam.gov and they would put the RFP in there? Or is, same with the federal government? Let's say the government is I've done an automated case management system before, and we wanted to get into that. Would that be in the sam.gov?
So I'm going to answer at the state and local level, and then I'm going to have Jennifer comment on what she would recommend federally. Okay. So at the state and local level, there are absolutely consulting RFPs. Some of them will ask specifically for what you see on the screen now. Others might say change management. But here's another angle that you could use to attack this. You could use evidence of past purchases for things around sustainability, around energy management, and you could use that kind of insight. You get that on our website. You can see what people have been buying previously, and you could use that as a starting point for knowing what types of counties and cities and towns out there are even thinking about this kind of thing, right? And then you might say to them, I understand you had an RFP last year on, more sustainable use of energy at your facilities. Are you thinking about doing anything else in that area? You could use your knowledge of past purchases to start new conversations. The other thing I would say is that in every jurisdiction in this country, and also federally, and Jennifer can speak to this, they have different thresholds at which they must issue a solicitation. So although our website focuses on solicitations, if you can identify in different states and localities, what is the dollar amount threshold under which the buyer is not required to have a solicitation? You have an old-fashioned direct sale opportunity. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, yes.
And they're different in every state. Now, Jennifer might want to speak to some of this federally.
Yep. And great points, Nick. And thanks, Elizabeth and Chan, for joining us. And thanks for your question. I'm screaming here that you should go after this opportunity with Las Vegas simply because it's an RFI. Request for information means they're in the very, very early stages of planning. You have an opportunity then to help. If there's something unique about your company, your capabilities, your price, whatever it is, something special that you're bringing to the table that's of value, you can help then get written into the solicitation. So when this RFI graduates, probably in 9 to 12 months to an RFP, the statement of work in that solicitation will then have some language that will help box out your competition, basically limiting competition. And that's kind of the same, whether it's state, local education or federal. Let me just back up and ask, how big is the company? How many full-time employees do you guys have?
How many do we have? So we have US, we have probably about 400 in the US.
Okay. And then do you have a team that's dedicated just to your public sector? So when I say public sector, I'm talking federal and SLED market.
No, we don't.
Okay. So, I mean,
Not
obviously
that I'm
you're,
aware of. Chan, sorry, Jennifer, I didn't mean to cut you off. Chan, are you aware of any of that?
No, we don't have like a focus team for like the government, maybe like federal, state, but we do have folks which have like way more experience, and they typically help the state organizations and the federal organizations. And we do have projects and we have consultants helping the organizations currently.
okay. And I'll just go back to Elizabeth. I think it was you that was speaking when you said you were talking to somebody within a town and they're converting their meters. That again is kind of the genesis of a contract or potential contract. So continue that relationship with that person or that group. Get as many contacts within that town as you can, and then eventually and ask the questions, is this something you're going to put out for bid? Or as Nick said, let's say the solicitation threshold for that town is, I don't know, I just want to say 50,000. And this contract is going to be 49,000. That's going to mean that they don't need to put this out for bid. So that can just be, as Nick said, an old-fashioned B2G, business to government sales contract. If it's over 50, that's where you really need to work your relationship and again get written into the tech specs of the solicitation. So again, is there something you do that's different from your competitors? Is it price? Is it whatever? And I would say the MyGovWatch tool is, I think, your best resource for finding these opportunities and doing some homework to understand who's the competition, and is competition really competition, or are they potential partners? Is there a teaming agreement that can come into place? Can you be a subcontractor? Is it? I mean, there's so many different ways for two companies or more to join forces.
And that Las Vegas one that you were showing, that is in mywatch.com.
Yeah, in MyGovWatch, and I just put it in the chat so you can copy it out, and you'll find it publicly online. The value that we're providing through the site is not that there's any secrets, right? We're just aggregating thousands of data sources so that you're not checking thousands of data sources every week. Okay. So you should see that in the chat.
Yeah, thank you.
And by all means, if you start a trial with us, I can hold your hand and we can have an offline conversation about ways that you can use the site.
Okay, thank you.
So folks, we are only at 57 minutes here. And Jennifer, we have had MyGovWatch Live end at exactly 90 minutes. We've had it go 2 hours. We've had it go an hour and 15 minutes. Okay. I have blocked off another half hour. So obviously, folks, I don't think we've answered every single question that you could possibly have. We've had a few people who said they would join us today who have not joined us. So now would be a fantastic time for just about anyone to raise their hand, even if you just want to introduce your business and what you do. We have had people on these sessions end up doing business with each other simply because they were involved in this session. So Jennifer, what are some of the other events that you have coming up? And why don't we talk a little bit about how you would encourage people to be on your radar, like how to get on your mailing list, how do they know about your events? Let's spend a few minutes with that, and maybe some folks will raise their hand.
Sure. And I'm not sure if Elizabeth and Chand are still on the line, but I think it would behoove the company to deploy a government, public sector sales and marketing team, but then also they're going to need to think about compliance. So it seems like they're a large enough company to go after these contracts. They've got the financial strength to do so, but you want to make sure that you also have the manpower. And so once you win a contract, we've got some webinars on this. We have, I think we're up to 600 now complimentary webinars on government contracting on our YouTube channel, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I think one of our webinars, I want a contract, now what? So you want to make sure that you've got compliant accounting systems. And also, you want to understand, is your business actually considered a large business or small? You said you have 400 employees, and the way the SBA looks at business size is either based on number of employees or your average revenues for the past 3 years. So you would need to do some homework there, because if you're a large business, then that's going to require subcontracting plans for any contracts that are valued at over $750,000, $1 million if it's construction related. So keep these things in mind. It's not just writing a proposal and, oh, you want a contract and suddenly you have all this government money. You, again, want to make sure that you have the bandwidth, the right expertise in place in-house or as consultants to help you shepherd you through that process, kind of the full life cycle of the contract. And those, again, are just kind of some helpful hints, and I'm sure you guys have thought of them, but for anyone else that maybe is on the line and isn't familiar with business size, subcontracting requirements, compliant accounting systems, all of these sort of things kind of come into play.
Absolutely. And I've just invited a few others. Chan, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, I was just thanking Jennifer for her great insights. I mean, quite helpful information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And for anyone, and thank you folks for joining us, and for anyone who was writing down everything that Jennifer said, I should have mentioned in the beginning that this will be on YouTube later, so you'll be able to refer to it if there's anything that you weren't able to jot down. And Jennifer, as we've been talking and as we've been listening to some of the feedback that you were giving, we've had some others raise their hand. And before I ask them to unmute, I just want to point out to Danielle, who started with us in the beginning of the call, that Brandy has done her own SAM registration. She'd be more than happy to hear from you. And I don't know if I want to read your email address on something that's going to end up in YouTube, Brandy, but I can certainly put you in touch with Danielle offline after this webinar. But Brandy, did you want to join us again? Because I've promoted you if you want to join us once more.
Sure.
Okay, follow-up questions. We love those.
Yes. So the new requirements that they're coming out, the CMMC requirements for the CUI, all depend upon, the contract. I just want to put a plug in there. Because it all depends upon the contract. I do the CMMC stuff, so I'm plugging my stuff out there on that too. So because it's going to be a big one. Some of them are self-certified stuff. It depend upon the level of the contract. So I think maybe we can talk a little bit about the CMMC requirements that are coming out. If you don't have your systems up to that level, the government's it's gonna be a no-go or a go from all the stuff that I've been reading.
Well, please, I just want to encourage you, if you want to spend a minute or two talking more about that, you'll have the link to the YouTube and you can send people right to it. And it'll act as a sort of a commercial for your availability for this.
So it's basically, the government had established certain requirements that that has to be implemented before you can get assessed. And so basically there's a requirement grid that you can go to. I guess it's the Cyber AB, the CMMC certification stuff, and you can read on it, but there's 14 domains that are going to be explained and things like that. You have to be compliant to be able to do business with the government going forward. Access controls, asset management, all the stuff that BLH cybersecurity consulting can help you with if you need it. I'm putting a plug in. But yes, so I wanted to put that out there because I don't want anybody to fall. The requirements are coming and they are important. So that's all I wanted.
Yeah, thank you for that. And once we publish this on YouTube, feel free to grab the link and just use it for your own promotional purposes, and
Sure.
hopefully that can help.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And please stay with it. And did you have any other follow-up questions?
No, I've actually been doing everything Miss I don't want to say it incorrectly, Schaus?
Rhymes with house.
Schaus.
House. Rhymes with house.
Okay. Schaus.
Jennifer Schaus is in the house.
Jennifer Schaus is in the house. Got it. So I really, really appreciate that because LinkedIn was not something that I actually used, and I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you. You've helped another small business.
Good.
Thank you.
Well, it's fun. And Jennifer, I don't know if you felt this way, but sometimes it's hard to explain to friends and family like what we do, right? And you sort of think, well, a little bit of it is drudgery, and how many people are really interested in this? But then you do realize that you're actually helping people, right, with what you do and what we do, because these are real businesses that people are feeding their families with. So I don't know if you feel that way, but that's something certainly over the years I've felt.
Yes, it is rewarding. So happy to help as many as we can.
And so we have Todd Bailey with us. And Todd, you raised your hand. Can we get you to give us your audio, video, or both? And Todd, you're on mute. I'm not sure if you accidentally raised your hand. So Todd, if you're wanting to join us, you could just continue to work on that, and we'll leave you as a, oh, wait, I think we might have your audio. Okay, we lost you, Todd. Keep trying. We're still here. Let's see if we have other hands raised.
I was just going to chime in on what Brandy was mentioning. She's talking about CMMC. For those who are not familiar with the acronym, Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. It's for defense contractors only. But keep in mind, if you're a subcontractor to a prime, so you're a little bit down the food chain, you're still going to have to follow these requirements. So you want to make sure that any solicitation that you're responding to, that you do meet and exceed all of the requirements. If you're looking at RFPs and you say, wow, this was written for me, except there's one line here that we don't meet. Well, again, keep in mind that most of these solicitations, there's a relationship behind there that goes back probably 18 to 24 months. And CMMC is very important. And has a lot of focus. If you just Google the term, you'll find a lot of information about it. You can also look on the NIST website. And it looks like maybe Todd is ready to rock and roll.
Hey, Jennifer, Nick, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much.
Welcome to MyGovWatch Live, Todd. And what do you do and where are you joining us from? And is that a virtual background? Is your office really that cool?
You know what? I wish it was that cool, like yours. Jennifer. So yeah, thank you for the session. It's really, picking up some tips and tricks. It's always nice to learn a couple new nuggets. So thank you for hosting, by the way, and really enjoying it. Our company is Ripcord, and we're trying to help the federal agencies, if you will, with mandate 19-21, and that's around converting physical documents into electronic records. And so one of the we're providing a document intelligence as a service, right? So one of the areas that piqued our interest earlier was a comment I believe you made, Jennifer, in seeking out subcontractors, and would really like some guidance if you can share a little bit more, elaborate a little bit more, because we would love to partner with other entities that have, one, maybe a BPA or multi-year contract to where we could bring some additional value to them.
Yeah. I'm going to steal one of Nick's questions and ask, what part of the country are you calling from? Because that accent is definitely not from New York.
I'm originally from Louisiana, but live in South Tampa now.
Ah, okay. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as subcontracting, I'm just going to put a disclaimer here. So many companies, I feel like, say, oh, we're not ready for our own federal government contract. We're going to be a sub first, or they think that they need some sort of certification or contract vehicle in order to be a prime. That is false information. If you go to sam.gov or use mygovwatch.com, there's plenty of solicitations that are out there that do not require 8A, HubZone, women-owned, veteran-owned, GSA schedule, or other contract vehicles. You can bid directly. Subcontracting, the downfalls are you're going to be squeezed on price. So your profit margins are going to be slimmer, and And you're not going to be in control of the contract. You're not going to be able to see the contract between the government and the prime. They will pretty much dictate prices to you, and you're still going to have to follow the FAR flow down clauses. If you don't know what that means, then you probably want to brush up on what the FAR is. It's the Federal Acquisition Regulations. It's basically the rules on how the government makes purchases. There are 52 parts to the FAR. We've done 52 webinars covering each part. It's on our website. The Defense Department has their own rules called the DFARs. There are 52 parts to the DFARs, and then there are FAR supplements for some of the agencies. So everyone has to follow the FAR, and then some of the departments and agencies have their own nuances. So I'm just saying that as a subcontractor, people think, oh, they're just going to kind of sit back and the rules aren't going to be as stringent, but in fact they are, and you're getting squeezed on price. So I would say you maybe want to rethink that strategy a little bit. And then you're going to have contracts with the prime where basically that you're not allowed to non-circumvent. So you can't basically go around the prime. Let's say the contracts with HHS, that they're going to prohibit you then from competing for that contract if it comes up for recompete after you've probably already made some relationships and done the majority of the work possibly. But we've got a whole, we have got, I want to say probably 50 plus webinars on subcontracting, from legal considerations, pricing, strategic, different ways to kind of skin the cat on our website, which will basically take you over to our YouTube channel. So it is a strategy, but it's going to require homework as well. And again, you can use the GovWatch website to find out who are the major players in this sector. You can use some of the public websites to find out what are their prices. If their prices are a lot lower than yours, then really, do you want to be a sub to them? Because you're basically going to be, again, losing money. So it does require some homework, and I think that due diligence will pay off before you decide to go down that path. And Nick, feel free to add anything here.
Yeah, I would just say make a distinction between two types of contracts. One would be contract A, where the nature of the prime work is the very same work that you would be doing. They're just giving you some of the exact same work, right? Another scenario would be where the scope of the contract is broad, or it's not quite what you do, and they just need you to do that because they need to hit a number, but it's not really the main focus of the contract. So I do generally agree with Jennifer, but the constraints around pricing may not be the same in that second scenario.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We were thinking more of like, a consultant comes in, obtains a contract, and then there's multiple aspects to, deliver on that contract, and where we could come in as a partner in that role and cater to one particular aspect of the milestone or deliverable in a multi, approach contract. So that's kind of what we were thinking when we say subcontract.
Do you know if you are a small business according to the federal definition?
No, we do partner with others, and Jennifer, I sent you a LinkedIn, so there may be an opportunity there, but no, we do not qualify as an 8A or a small business.
You're a large business.
I'd say medium.
Okay. Go, Jennifer.
With aspirations. We have high.
Okay, so you're either large or small. You're not medium.
Right, so
nobody is. So okay, how many employees do you have?
150-ish.
And your NAICS code is?
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head. By the way, I'm 20 days into Ripcord, so I do not know that one off the top of my head.
Okay. Are you familiar with the, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but there are federal definitions around large businesses versus small, and it's based on your primary NAICS code and your average revenues for the past 3 years for that specific NAICS code. So with that being said, are you certain that you guys are not a small business?
That's correct. And I'll search for that NAICS code because I see the relevance there. But yeah, we're on other GSA schedules with with other under an umbrella, if you will, of small business 8A companies.
Okay. So yeah, that doesn't really determine your business size if you have other contracts.
No, we're in the document intelligence service. So you think about IDP, kind of lane, and I don't really know what that NACE code is. We
Okay.
actually check a few because of our whole workflow, but so
Okay.
I think we have a few NACE codes that we qualify for. But should we just have one primary? Is what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
Potentially.
in your SAM registration, you will have one primary NAICS code, and that's for the nature of those type of contracts where that is the NAICS code that the government's awarding a contract under. You're either large or small.
Okay.
And some companies will be like, oh, we've got, I don't know, 1,000 employees, we're a large business, but not necessarily. It
Right.
varies. And Nick, feel free to expand here.
Yeah, just by way of example, there are some categories where your average annual revenue can be 31,999,000 and you're a small business. So, but there is a lot more to it, and having multiple NAICS codes associated with your company is a good thing if it's true.
Yeah. One last one. I don't want to hog the time, but one last one. The other comment that you made was seeking out recompete contract opportunities or renewals is the one of the ways I think of that. Is there a certain solution? I mean, obviously, MyGovWatch, SAM, any particular path, or can you give us some direction on seeking out those recompete opportunities?
Yep, I always think we used to always say as a rule of thumb, go back at least 3 full fiscal years to look at contracts. But because of COVID, and I call it COVID contracting, I say it now, it's almost helpful to go back to like fiscal year 2018, if not 17, because you'll see for some companies and industries spikes and dips during COVID, depending upon what the government was buying. And you can make some assumptions, but you can use that as kind of predictive analytics. And maybe Nick has a more specific answer on how to look at those contracts within MyGovWatch. Obviously, you would look at the primary NAICS code, maybe some keyword searches, and then looking back for maybe 4-year contracts that are, again, coming up for recompete. But Nick, I'll let you expand upon what your platform can do for that.
Absolutely, and exactly what Jennifer is mentioning, those would be some of the things you can do. I would also encourage you to understand that different federal agencies have contracting forecasts that are publicly available online. So, you know, if you, let's just say, for example, Department of Defense, Department of Energy, Department of Education, just start Googling around contract forecast. And some of them will have spreadsheets that show you what they have in the pipeline. And you might see that there are opportunities there for either what you do directly or where you believe what you do could be part of that solution. So that certainly could be part of it as well.
Okay. And is
I will
that
say,
on MyGovWatch?
I'm sorry?
Is that available on MyGovWatch?
So the contracting forecast, some of them are outside of what we're offering on the site, but you can certainly see some of what's coming up on the site.
Okay, thank you.
so we actually have all of those on our website under, if you go to our website, it's just going to be my name, jenniferschaus.com, and there's a tab called Doing Business With. And every single department, all of the independent agencies, we've got links to the OSDBUs, the OSBPs, the forecast, and a lot of other information there that'll help you kind of navigate what they're buying and when.
Thanks for that. That sounds very handy.
Yep.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, and we have another 10 minutes or so, and we have someone, Kimberly Harvey, with us. And Kimberly, I'm going to have you try to join us. But before we do, Jennifer, maybe now's a good time for anyone who's with us and who's watching in the future. What is the correct way that you would like people to connect with you as a company or get on your mailing list? And Kimberly, I'm going to try to promote you to a panelist while Jennifer's going over that.
Sure, just on our website at the top right corner. So again, the website is just my name, jenniferschaus.com. The top right corner, there are 2 links. One is going to be a link to sign up for our newsletter. It does not cost you anything. It comes out every Monday. That'll give you information about all of the webinars that we put on, which are complimentary webinars about government contracting, strategic topics. Right now, we're covering the top 40 contractors and really digging in and profiling them. The other piece on our website at the top right corner, I believe it's there, is the link to our YouTube channel, which again is also free, and we've got over 600 webinars on our YouTube channel. So feel free to follow that. There's going to be something that's uploaded this afternoon from a webinar that we did today at 12 o'clock Eastern. So a full day of talking for me.
I don't know about you, Jennifer, but sometimes I get home and, you know, I just need to sit in a quiet room for a half hour before I take any questions or make any decisions.
Gonna massage the jaws.
So Kimberly, Harvey, I think we're not having a lot of success here getting you to join. I don't know if you're with us or just not necessarily.
I'm here.
Oh, are you there?
I'm here, yes.
Welcome, Kimberly.
I don't have a webcam. I'm sorry. That's the only difference.
That's okay. You sound just fine. And Kimberly, I'm hoping the answer to this question is yes, but were you the one just texting me from the 816 area code?
That was me, yes.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you were able to join us, even though it appeared on your calendar as a different time. So welcome to MyGovWatch Live, and I take it you're joining us from Missouri, or is it Missouri?
Missouri.
Missouri.
Kansas
Okay.
City, Missouri, yes.
Okay, and what do you do?
Well, I do a number of different things in my business, but the particular item that I am soliciting is called Danilite. It's it's a disinfectant process that actually is a differentiator. It's hypochlorous acid is what it is. And my next code is 621511, if that helps, Jennifer. It's medical laboratories. I have several different codes, but that seems to be the primary one. It disinfects specifically for the coronavirus. It's generators that actually help without harsh chemicals that can actually clean a room. For example, a classroom. It actually goes above in the air, and it can be on the person's back, and you can actually disinfect a room in less than 10 minutes. Students can come back in within 15.
So I understand that you were interested in federal business development. Is that where your primary interest is, or are you also interested in state and local?
I am interested in all of it, actually. Everything. Everyone needs this particular product to help them to sanitize and disinfect, but I'm open to all avenues.
Okay, so I'm going to have Jennifer speak on, some things that you might consider federally. But if I'm not mistaken, didn't you tell me either in an email or prior to this webinar that you already have your GSA contract, or you already have your SAM account?
I do. I did that on my own. It took a bit, but I was actually to procure that by myself.
Your SAM account, and do you have a GSA schedule contract yet?
I do not.
Okay, so that may come up with Jennifer. But yeah, so why don't I guess I would say this: when you're aware of your NAICS code and using it on sam.gov, this came up earlier, but I don't think you were on the call. A lot of times they're putting the wrong NAICS code on their purchases, but I will tell you that when they're buying products, they tend to be more successful at selecting the right NAICS code. So that's a good thing. If you're doing research on SAM or USA spending, you're more likely to see accurate information if you're sure your product falls under that NAICS code. But Jennifer, what would you say to Kimberly?
Yeah, so Kimberly, are you the manufacturer? Are you a dealer, distributor, reseller? What's your function in the product line?
I'm a reseller. Correct.
Reseller, okay.
Yes.
And where is the product manufactured?
In Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, okay, okay. So I would say, just kind of going back to MyGovWatch and using their database to look for solicitations under that NAICS code, I think is your first start. Have you responded to any solicitations? Have you written any proposals? Have you partnered with anybody?
I am just now beginning. I have a meeting with these particular folks to iron all of this out. This product is actually made of salt water and electricity.
Okay.
That's what hypochlorite.
Okay.
But no, I'm just beginning, and that's why I was interested in this conversation. So I'll know it's so huge that, it's hard to know where to begin.
Right. I would say you probably, it's not premature to get the women-owned certification. And then I'd also say your next step is probably working with your local PTAC. Again, that's the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. If you go to my website, which is jenniferschaus.com, The second tab from the left is doing business with. If you just click on that and you go to, you said Missouri, right? Is where you're
I
from?
did.
I think it's probably in the third column. It's alphabetical. I'm trying to do this by memory.
Okay.
Scroll down to Missouri. You'll find a link for your PTAC there, and they can. They're probably your best resource if you're just starting out.
Okay, I already have my woman-owned business certification
Okay.
as well as
Great.
WOSB, EDWSB. So I
Great.
have those already.
And
Super. Yeah. Then
Kimberly, oh, I'm sorry, Jennifer, go ahead.
Nope. I was just saying that's great.
Yeah, so Kimberly, I would just mention that next month we happen to have 3 PTAC counselors who are going to be on with us on MyGovWatch Live. And there has been a recent rebrand. PTAC is still a term a lot of people use, but I think another term they're starting to use is Apex Accelerator. So certainly Google around for PTAC, but also Apex Accelerator. And join us next month. And there will be 3 different PTAC counselors on MyGovWatch Live. I think it's the 19th. I think that would be the 3rd Wednesday of the month. So,
Okay, great.
Kimberly, any follow-up questions?
I don't. I'm sorry I was late. I'm sure I'm going to listen to the YouTube and I'll have a ton of questions, but it's a little late and I apologize for that. I thought it started at 3.
Well, Kimberly, we are almost out of questions. So you did me a giant favor by showing up when you did.
Okay, great. That's good. Well, this is very interesting. It is a little daunting. You just have to be able to work through it and get the right people to help you to do that process. And I think that's what we're doing today. So thank you so much.
I think you're right about that. And Jennifer, I wonder if you agree with this. I have often thought that selling to the government, a lot of people think it is just a completely alien thing. But really, it's just selling in general, and you need to have strategies the way you would in the private sector. But there's just another layer on top of it. There's a layer of acronyms and buzzwords. There's a layer of bureaucracy and process and red tape. But once you understand those things, I wonder if you agree that it starts to feel more like a regular sale.
Yeah, I think so. I think you hit all the points as far as red tape and compliance, and there's going to be obviously a cost of doing business, and there's a lengthy sales process. But I think if you do it right, if you conduct your homework and do your research, which your website certainly helps companies do that and get that information that they need, then they've got a great strategy, and then the rest just kind of comes into place. And it's like anything, there are going to be pieces that you're not going to know. So as Kimberly alluded to, finding the right resource, whether it's finding the right accounting system that's compliant for DCAA audits, and if you're going down the DoD path, or making sure that you've got the CMMC certification in place, and all of that. There's plenty of resources out there. And I think the best part of selling in the public sector is that there is so much data out there. If you were selling to, let's say, hospitals, or you were selling to the construction industry, you're not going to be able to go to a website to say, oh, ABC company was supplying the lumber last year and they had a contract for, I don't know, $22,000.33. And it's a 4-year contract and it's expiring this date. And here's the buyer and here's their email address, and they use this contract vehicle. There is so much, we'll say, quote unquote, free complimentary data out there. And yes, you can use it. Just you need to know the websites to go to. But what MyGovWatch does, I think, so well is putting that data together, because it is cumbersome to go to all these different sites to research pricing, to research expiring contracts. But again, you guys make it easy to get all that data, and no other sector has this much historical data. I mean, you can go back to 20, 30 years worth of contracting data if you really wanted to.
Yes, and you would have a fun time with a glass of wine and spend a glorious Saturday night reading all about contracts from the 1990s.
Right. Indeed. It just surprises me how many people don't use the data. And that's really, I think, what separates the successful companies from those that aren't. You need to be more proactive and not reactive to the market. And I think doing homework and using data allows you then to be proactive, because then you know which solicitations you should not be responding to.
Absolutely. So I don't see any other hands raised, Jennifer.
Okay.
One more time, can you just tell us what your web address is?
Sure, it's just going to be my name, which is jenniferschaus.com, and plenty of data on that website. We've got, like I said, over 600 webinars, all complimentary, and hopefully some useful information for anybody that's here listening today.
Well, fantastic. Folks, that
Thanks.
will do it for today's edition of MyGovWatch Live. MyGovWatch Live. It's been a long day. Jennifer, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to go to jenniferschaus.com and sign up for her newsletter, which comes out every Monday. And remember, if you're not already a subscriber, start your free 14-day trial of mygovwatch.com today. If you want to win more government contracts for less, you'll be glad you did. Thanks again, Jennifer.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks to everybody who joined us.
Bye-bye.